Hey everyone, and welcome. My name's Aaron, and this is Basics, Sound of a Les Paul. All right, the Gibson Les Paul. I mean, is there a more iconic rock lead guitarist's guitar than the Les Paul? Released in 1952, originally by the Gibson Guitar Company, the Telecaster had come out 2 years before, as sort of the first solid body electric guitar, and that was all the rage with the Telecaster and the Strat. And this was sort of Gibson's like response to that. They were like, we want to build a solid body guitar. They brought in a guy whose name was Les Paul, who was a guitarist and inventor, and he sort of pioneered a lot of the early electric guitar, innovations. And together they collaborated and came up with what you see here. Not this exact one. This is from 2006. But this is basically not too much has changed since 1952. Obviously, it's gone through several versions over the years and countless iterations of different pickups and body types or whatever. But in general, a Les Paul has a solid mahogany body, as well as mahogany neck, and is very heavy. Usually rosewood fingerboard, and this sort of beautiful carved maple top. And expensive guitars. They were sort of like quality. They wanted to be quality guitars, not necessarily affordable and for every person or whatever. But this was like the top of the line, upper echelon. Only rock stars could get them. And they really succeeded in sort of making something very unique and different than what Fender was doing at the time. So pretty basic configuration here. You got a neck and a bridge humbucker and 3-way selector switch here. You got neck, both pickups, and the bridge pickup. Volume and tone for the neck and volume and tone for the bridge. So pretty standard sort of guitar setup. And, what they've become known for is kind of that lead guitarist, super rock star kind of thing. I think probably because of the amount of sustain that you can get out of this guitar. Reading a little bit about it before doing this video, that was a huge concern of Les Paul himself, was like, it's got to have like massive amounts of sustain. And that's what it's definitely known for, is like you can just sort of hit a note and it'll just sustain and sustain and sustain forever and ever. And that's great if you're doing sort of soaring, crazy lead guitar stuff. And that's why those players have used it throughout the years. What players are you talking about, Aaron? We're talking about players like Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, Slash from Guns N' Roses. We're talking about Pete Townsend. We're talking about Eric Clapton. He, famously played a Strat, but he also has played a lot of Les Pauls over the years. Countless others down the line, and, it became more affordable throughout time, and Epiphone and others kind of made their own versions of it, but the Gibson Les Paul has remained a very popular guitar with good reason. It's sort of the lead guitar player's playground. I mentioned that it's heavy. You guys, it's really heavy. Maybe you've played a Les Paul, maybe you haven't. If you haven't, you will be shocked at how heavy this thing is. I mean, it is just a solid slab of mahogany, and that it is that way by design. It's that way so that it sustains forever and ever. If you buy one, get a nice comfortable strap, especially compared to what I'm used to, which is this hollow body Telecaster that I play. It's like the world's lightest guitar, and I love it. Not really like a rhythm player's guitar. I mean, you can do anything you want with it, and it's actually pretty versatile. But like I said, again, it's synonymous with these lead guitar players, these guitar heroes of yesteryear and of today. And also, I think, synonymous with like rock and roll, sort of classic rock. I do think it's a very versatile guitar. These humbuckers have a ton of output. I had a hard time getting my amp, even to a level where it was like even halfway clean. My amp breaks up like pretty quick. It's only 18 watts. And usually I have it at about 9 o'clock. And that gives me a good like sort of in between. But I had to go down to like almost off on the volume just to get it to be clean at all. So a ton of output is coming out of these. Again, that's another thing that is the thing with the Les Paul, is they have a lot of output. So whatever amp they're going into, they're going to overdrive it and, make it sound epic. You know, I actually really like the clean sound, especially out of the neck pickup. It's this sort of... It's kind of throaty, a lot of low end, a little bit muted top, jazzy, kind of pretty thing. It makes me want to put like a tremolo and a delay and a reverb on it and just sort of get lost in sort of warm, washy goodness. But obviously what they're known for is not that, not clean sounds, but just like dirty, dirty, dirty. Switch to the bridge pickup. I mean, when you start there, you can go to like... Another thing that people like to do with the Les Paul is flip to the neck when they're playing like really high solos. That's like, when I hear that sound, I think of Guns N' Roses, Slash, and like Sweet Child of Mine, which I don't know how to play. But the cool thing about that neck pickup sound up high is there's such a elevation of the fundamental frequency, so that note really never gets lost. So even though there's a lot of low end and not a ton of highs, there's a lot of definition because that fundamental frequency is kind of poking through, and it's almost like, you know, you're playing the lead on like a keyboard or something. It's like that clear, all the notes coming through, versus something with a lot of overtones where the notes can kind of get lost. So that's great. You know, a ton of top end. You can hear all this, you know, stuff up high, but switch to the neck pickup. So it's like you get a lot more of that fundamental tone. The fundamental, that's like the note itself, rather than all the overtones above the note, rather than all the harmonics and things like that. You know, I wish I had a giant Marshall stack, because like a Les Paul bridge pickup, Marshall stack, crank it. That's like the sound of rock and roll right there. That's it. It's sort of the combination of like the hot output of these pickups, and specifically the bridge pickup with all this middle and top end into this giant cabinet, and the way those sort of interface together and overdrive is just like, it just feels right. It just feels like rock and roll. And that's the sound of a lot of those classic records, is like Les Paul into a Marshall cranked. I'm getting a little bit of a version of that with my little mini British amp over here, my humble little 112 18 watt. Just for kicks, I'm gonna go turn up my amp like maybe 3/4 of the way, no pedals, and just the Les Paul straight into the amp, cranked, and let's see what kind of sound we can get. Okay, I better stop before my amp explodes, but so that's it. It's the Les Paul by Gibson. I mean, do I need to advocate for this guitar? I mean, it speaks for itself over its years of accomplishments and what it's done in the industry and those people who have used it. So yeah, get a Les Paul if you want to just rage and be that mysterious lead guitar player who no one can understand, you know, his or her feelings. Hey, shout out to my friend Eric, who let me borrow his beautiful Les Paul Custom to do this video. Gorgeous guitar, but it's too heavy. It's too heavy for me, so I'm gonna give it back. Hey, that's it from me today. Let me know if you have any questions about this guitar down in the comments below, and we'll see you all next time.